The COVID-19 pandemic has forced school closures around the world, impeding access to education. A UN report estimates that by 2030, 84 million children will still be at risk of being out of school. Manos Antoninis, director of the UNESCO Global Education Monitoring Report, stressed the importance of remediation to avoid prolonged negative impacts on education.
As we know, COVID-19 led to extensive school closures. We have estimated at the Global Education Monitoring Report that schools remain closed or partially closed for more than half of days globally. But that in itself is distributed very unequally between countries. We have seen very short school closures in the Pacific, but by contrast, very long school closures in South Asia and in parts of Southeast Asia. Bangladesh or the Philippines are examples of countries that kept schools closed the longest. And inevitably, that means that the learning levels of students have been severely affected because so many really did not have access to opportunities to continue their learning.
Manos also emphasized how remediation is the first step to recovery.
The obvious measure that countries need to take, given the potential severity of the situation, especially in middle-income countries in the region that had their schools closed for longest, is remediation measures. Teachers, as schools have reopened more systematically this year, need to be ready to assess where their students are, especially the more disadvantaged, because the pandemic has had a highly unequal effect. Wealthier students were able to continue their learning in one form or another. Either they had access to the internet and opportunities that their governments were offering online, or their families were supporting them at home. But those more disadvantaged, those poorest, without the means to access education from a distance and without any support at home, are likely to have had their learning levels really seriously declining.
Therefore, the education sector needs to transform in order to face the challenges that lie ahead.
We know education systems are very hard and very slow to change, but there is increasingly a call, and not just because of the pandemic, which exposed the grave risks of inequality, but also of the major challenges that we're facing today: climate change, the risk of conflict, misinformation due to the increasing use of social media and related resources. Education systems need to make a big leap forwards.